seems as though I'll never be blue. Sometimes I'm happy, rhythm. Sometimes I'm blue.
Well, hello and welcome to The One Show with Alex Jones.
And Matt Baker. Now, it may be Monday night, but tonight we are going to spend an hour celebrating the king of Saturday night and a friend, of course, of this show, Sir Bruce Forsyth, who died last week.
Now, of course, he was an entertainment legend. You know, I never knew a man who was more in love with the concept of showbiz than Bruce. And tonight we are celebrating his life and his career with some close friends and colleagues.
Yes, so we'll be covering all aspects of Bruce's career, and we'll also be revealing the final 3 contestants of this year's Strictly. I'm sure they'd all have been Bruce's favourites,
of course. I'm sure he would love this show too. So let's welcome to our sofa, shall we, 3 guests who each represent a significant chapter in Bruce's story. First, we've got a singer, a comedian, a long-time friend and golfing partner.
Also here is Bruce's Generation Game girl.
And the ultimate fan who became a friend, sharing the Strictly dance floor.
So let's welcome Kenny Lynch, Rosemary Ford and Anton Dubek.
Lovely to see you all. And also, later, we've got Strictly's very own Dave Arch and his wonderful, wonderful orchestra, and they're going to be here for a special musical tribute at the end of tonight's show. So where do we start, Al? Should we start at the beginning? Let's start at the beginning, yes.
Yes. So, first time, then, you met Bruce. Go on, Kenny. You kick us off.
The first time I met him, funny enough, was in a barber shop.
Was it?
Yeah, and I'd gone to the barber's 2 hours before, and I saw a picture of Bruce up on the wall by the mirror, and I said to the barber, I said, I know that fella. What's his name? He said, oh, he's Bruce Forsyth. I said, why do I know him? But I realised then that I'd seen him in those days. It was still the variety bills, you know.
What sort of year are we talking here?
Oh, I wouldn't like to mention it, but I don't know. 70-something.
Okay.
70. I mean, we were pals for 55 years, so it's got to go back from there.
Yeah.
And he said to me, oh, if he's coming in later on, he says, because he's a regular here like you. I said, all right. He said, bring him, come over in about an hour. I said, oh, I ain't got time for all that rubbish. I said, oh, I'm going something, you know. It's in Gerrard Street, right in the middle of the West End. I was probably shopping or something. But I did actually go past about an hour later, and I saw him, and he called me in, not Bruce, the barber. And he introduced us and all that, and he was just about 4 or 5 weeks from taking over the Generation Game or something. And then I met him in the BBC Roundhouse in the bar, and we started talking, and then we suddenly discovered that we had this great love of jazz. Yeah. He loved, same as me, he loved pianists and singers. So he loved like Billy Eckstine and Ella and Sarah Vaughan and Oscar Peterson. And after that day, we were inseparable.
You were best buddies.
Absolutely.
You all shared the same love, yeah. And Rosemary, how about you?
Oh, gosh, this was probably about 85, 86, and I was just working for a choreographer called Nigel Lithgow. I was just one of the dancers on his shows. He had different sort of specials. So I did that, and also we did a comedy ballet routine, which was great fun. And then a while after that, before the Generation Game, I was on a Royal Variety singing for Andrew Lloyd Webber. Rather fortunate. And Bruce saw it and went, oh, who's that girl? And Nigel said, well, she was, she did that comedy ballet routine with you. So he said, right, let's get her in, because I want somebody for the Generation Game.
Oh.
Really?
And then I really got to know him a lot better, obviously, from that point. But I was just one of the dancers on his show before.
Well, I'm so starstruck because I wanted to be you, Rosemary, back in the day. I really did.
The first thing Al said when she heard you were coming on. I actually wanted to be Rosemary Ford.
Amazing. And then, Anton, of course, for you, it was Strictly, I imagine, back when you started.
Yeah, it was really. But I met him once before that. We were just talking about this, actually, Rosemary and I, because I did one of the old Come Dancings. And Rosemary used to host the Come Dancing.
Yes.
And Brucey did one show as a guest. He just came on and did a guest show. And it happened to be the one that I was doing. And of course, Brucey has always been my hero, really. I've always loved him. And so I asked his manager, I think whoever it was at the time, said, could I meet him, please? He said, of course. So I went round to his dressing room and I met him. I said, hello, it's a pleasure, it's an honour to meet you. I mean, thank you very much, really. What do you say to your hero? I went, oh, yes, love, and sort of walked out and went, was that it? Is that all you could find to say, hello? And then, of course, later, Strictly Come Dancing came around, and Brucey was going to be the host. And although we didn't really know what Strictly Come Dancing was going to be like in the early days, we knew as dancers it's wonderful, but for me, Brucey being the host and being able to work with Brucey on a show was sort of, you know, I'd been sent to heaven. And I met him. Yeah. We did the launch show, the press day. I think it was Claridge's, and all the pros and celebrities were there, and the press were there, and then Bruce and Tess came out and introduced everybody, and we were out the back getting a bit of slap and all that, putting our frocks on and stuff. And Brucey was going around saying hello to everybody, and I remember turning around, looking at him, going like that. Hello. Again. Ridiculous. Hello. Lovely. And then, of course, we got chatting and after the show, we spoke about golf, and, you know, we're both keen golfer. And then after the very first series of Strictly Come Dancing, he invited me up to his place and a round of golf, and we played golf. So I met him at the house, and then we jumped in the buggy and we went off and played golf. And that was, you know, it was incredible. For me, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I mean, to be in the show with Bruce was one thing, but then to be, you know, we all worked together, we all worked with fabulous people, but to be in the buggy... he was a terrible driver of a golf buggy.
Is that right? Is that right with Kenny? Well, you know more about that than anyone does.
Absolutely, he wasn't too good in a car either.
Oh.
But that was, I mean,
wonderful.
Both Al and I, you know, our experiences with Strictly and this, that and the other, but certainly from my perspective, I remember the first time I was stood so close to him at that kind of judge's moment where you're waiting, and he's mesmerised. He was mesmerising to look at, and just to think, wow, I'm in his company right now.
And you've watched him as you've grown up, but
he was always moving, that's the thing, he was always moving.
Always.
I mean,
One of the things was that I was saying about when he met Anton was that because I started Generation Game and then I was asked if I would present Come Dancing, and actually Bruce came to me, which I was like so honoured. He came to me and said, "Do you know, I've always wanted to be on Come Dancing. Can you ask if they'd just let me on? You know."
Well, so
yeah, and so he said,
probably wanted to borrow a few quid.
Yeah, but you know what? They were like, "Yeah, but you know, this is Bruce," and I went, "He doesn't want anything. He just wants, you know, a bit of lunch and a cup of tea or something, and he's fine. He doesn't want anything. He just wants to be on the programme. He just wants to be on Come Dancing," and then he met
He has that wonderful way, Bro. You'll know this, because you're all in the studio rehearsing, and we're doing this either sort of a tech run or a band call or something, or the day before, and you'll be all doing something, and suddenly there'll be a little frisson in the background, and you go, "What's that?" And Brucey's arrived.
Yeah.
You walked into the studio, and everything you get, this little thing, you didn't have to turn around, you just knew he was there.
That's a good way to describe it.
This charisma that he had, and this class that he just used to almost paint on wherever he went. It was quite magical,
him walking
wasn't
into
it?
rehearsal rooms every day, and everyone would sit up. You know, he just had this way of just real charisma.
Well,
last night I was sitting at home and people from my village were coming up and knocking on the door and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry that." I've never spoken to them before in my life. Just people knocking on the door and saying, "We know how close you was with him."
Just that common
Well,
bond.
everybody feels like they know him, don't they?
Well, we've got an hour to talk about it.
We have.
So we can, you know, we don't need to squeeze it all into the first 10 minutes. Let's relax and enjoy it and celebrate his life. And, of course, Bruce was a one-off who appealed to so many people of all ages from all different backgrounds.
Well, we all have our favourite memories that we've heard tonight. But what did he mean to you? Well, we went to the home of Ballroom to Blackpool.
Yes, and his spiritual home, the London Palladium.
From the moment he stepped in, he would instantly say hello, he would instantly make you feel like you could speak to him and have a conversation with him. He would store his butties in our fridge, so it was always nice when he used to pop through to the office to make sure no one had eaten them.
Didn't he do well?
Yeah. You're my favourite. Bruce Forsyth to me just brings back childhood memories of real family entertainment, real traditional, good family values and great entertainer.
When you watched him, you felt as if you knew him really well.
Well, I used to like to see him dance, do his shuffles and his, you know. He was telly, he was Bruce, we'll miss him madly because he was just there.
I think for me it's got to be all about Strictly Come Dancing, the famous bit where Mark Rambercash, Karen Hardy doing their dance, it goes wrong. Bruce steps in like an absolute pro.
No, I love it. This is live television.
And he let them do it again, and you know we all enjoyed the dance. Nice to see you, to see you. Nice.
Didn't we do well?
Give us a twirl.
child, seeing him on lots of things on the telly and more recently on Strictly, which we're avid watchers every year.
I loved watching Bruce on there. It was made my day, made my
Absolutely.
weekend.
Ready, steady, go.
Bruce was much more talented than just his game shows. He was a great pianist, tap dancer, all those sort of things. He's going to be missed by loads of people.
He will, we'll miss him.
I'm in charge.
He was just, he brought in new phrases, new ideas, and he was just, Bruce was original.
You're my favourite. I loved that when he said that. It was really funny.
Keep dancing.
We've known Brucey since I was little, and then as a student at university, and then right up until the last couple of years when still liked him on Strictly Come Dancing.
He was a star.
I think you saw some of your neighbours there, Kenny.
Thanks to all those people who took part in that film. But we'd love to hear from you at home as well. So if you ever met Bruce and had your photo taken with him, I don't know, perhaps you were a contestant on one of his game shows.
That would be brilliant.
That would be amazing. Or in the audience at Strictly Even, send them into the usual address with your name and details. And we'll show as many as we can. Very important, though, please put the year, isn't it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Now, we've got some lovely photos of the three of you and lovely moments from your careers as well. So I think we're going to start with you, Kenny. This might be from 1978. Here we are. So there you... are these the 3 fivers?
Yeah.
3 fivers. Come on, then. What's the story, Kenny?
No, me and a friend of mine were talking about the tenors, whatever they were called. And
The
all
three
that.
tenors, yeah.
He said... And he said, he had an idea. He said, you, Bruce and Jimmy should do it. And I said, yeah, we'd probably call ourselves the 3 fivers. And the guy who ran the record company, he thought it was a good idea. So I took him into the studio. We did this big band arrangements and everything. And we did it. But what the boys didn't realise, never being pop stars like myself, what they didn't realise was that, you know, when you bring out a record, you've got to go, like, up and down the country, man. So you go to all the different radio shows, Mersey Radio, everywhere, all over the country. And I said, and I took it one day in somewhere, gave them a schedule of what we should do and all that. And they looked at me like as I was potty. Hey, well, we ain't going all up there. So I did it all on my... didn't do all of them. I did a few of them on my own. But
good on you, Ken.
But I was driving home from a gig one night, and it came on the news, which was great. It said me, Jimmy, and Bruce had been... they were going to take away our record because, you know, copying. They didn't like the idea of the 3 fivers. Right. Well, me and Bruce sometimes used to go to football in Malaga. We supported Malaga because we had flats out there. And we used to sit about two things away from Petro Domingo. And I said to him, what's all that about, you know, taking the record up the thing and all that? He said, what record? I said, the record, you know, I said, I called us the 3 fivers, and he couldn't stop laughing. He couldn't stop laughing. He said, I've never heard anything about it. But it took weeks before we know why. They fined us 10 grand as well.
Really?
Yeah. I think Jimmy must have paid it, because me and Bruce definitely didn't.
I could have paid him in fivers.
We'll move on, Rosemary, to a picture of yourself with Bruce. Look at that one. There you are on the generation.
That's the classic I Want to Be You from Alex Jones.
Oh, gosh, look at that.
Definitely, that was it. That dress there.
That
like
dress.
Diana Ross.
Oh, I loved wearing the dresses. I loved it every week,
bet.
choosing something different, how they're having it made for me, or going to lovely designers and things. It was so special.
And you know, on a day you're filming, what would be sort of you and Bruce's routine then, before you got to the studio floor?
Well, I mean, when we very first started rehearsals, because, you know, it was a big step, you know, and it was quite scary, because you know that once that first programme goes out, your life is going to change, you know, because you're the new girl in the generation game. And I used to think, when I was sitting years before, you know, watching it with my parents, that little did I know I would be that next girl, the Bruce's girl in the generation game. So it was a huge step. But it usually started with the two of us having a cup of tea and a digestive biscuit. Because he'd like to sit and put me at my ease, because I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
And he realised that actually we needed to build up a sort of a nice rapport for it to work anyway. So he would spend time every rehearsal day, and we would sit down. He'd say, come and have a sit down, he said. And we would just chat, and we'd chat about his daughters, and we'd chat about just everything, and the shows that I'd done for him as well, and the choreographers, and, you know, and it was such a really special way of actually building up that relationship that we had, and I just feel very, very fortunate that I had the time to have sort of built up that relationship and worked with him in that way, which was just doing everything, all the dance routines, all the comedy plays, and the, you know, everything, you know. I even sang with Cleo Lane. I mean, my goodness. Scaffing with Cleo Lane.
Didn't say anything about me, did he?
But you know, we're going to be talking a lot about the Generation Game tonight because we've got Jim Moyer, producer, who's coming on as well a little bit.
And we've got a photo of you, Anton. We will get to it later. You singing and dancing with Sir Bruce. Now, Bruce, of course, was an old-school entertainer with timeless appeal. He was a variety performer in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah, so here's a look at his early years to see how and where he honed his all-round talent.
Bruce Joseph Forsyth Johnson was born in February 1928 in Edmonton in North London, where his father owned a garage business. It wasn't long before Bruce's showbiz spark was kindled.
From the age of 9, when I first saw a Fred Astaire film, and he danced, it just did something to my brain, my whole body, and all I wanted to do was dance.
I used to dance on my dad's garage roof. He had 32 lock-up garages, and he had all these rooms, you see, and they really did make a noise. So I would go and see Fred Astaire do this marvellous routine, dancing on roofs, and I would get up there and dance on all the roofs, and then the raids would come and all the garages would leak.
Bruce's first TV appearance was in 1939 on Jasmine Bly's talent show.
I went on and she did the little interview with me, and then she said, OK, you're going to get up and sing and dance for us, I believe. I said, yes. She said, you've been dancing? I said, I've been dancing for about a year now, tap dancing. Oh, well, that would be lovely. And what is your ambition? I said, well, I want to become a star and buy my mum a fur coat. Because she used to make all the little satin suits that I wore. She'd stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning making these little dancing suits.
By the age of 14, young Bruce had honed his song and dance routine for the stage.
I used to call myself Boy Bruce then. Boy Bruce, the mighty atom. And I got a job for £5, and I worked Bilston, the theatre in Bilston.
It was the most awful place to work. And then at the end of the week, the takings were so bad, I got 13 and 4pence in old money.
Things looked up when Bruce got a chance to join the lineup at London's Windmill Theatre, famous for its revue, which featured scantily clad showgirls and comedians like Tony Hancock and Peter Sellers.
It was the most wonderful place, and believe me, so many of our great comics started at the Windmill to find out if they had any value as regards being an entertainer. I think the worst moment was when I was at the Empress Brixton. I remember going there and dying the whole week, absolutely dying. And it was the most horrible week of my life. I did give myself 5 years. If I didn't make it, get out. I didn't want to be a frustrated pro. I'd hate to be that.
Bruce's big break came in 1958 when he was 30.
This theatre changed my life completely. I went from a summer season in Eastbourne with just 200 people, maybe on a Saturday night, and then travelling up to London to the Palladium with 2,500 people. This was the Mecca.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sunday night at the London Palladium.
They used to get the church service over early and the pub shut early because Sunday night at the Palladium was going. It was enormous.
Sunday night at the Palladium was a wonderful live lunatic event.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Made more lunatic by the presence of this stick-thin insect.
It was a big family occasion, and it was largely because of him. The whole family loved Brucey.
The cool thing about Bruce was that when people like Sammy would come in and he would dance with them, he kept up with them, and that was like, whoa, this is cool.
With me making such a hit on those first few weeks, I finished up with Sunday night at the Palladium every Sunday.
Thank you very much indeed.
My mother never even saw me hit it big. I always feel very sad that after all the years of sewing those little sequins onto the thing that she never actually saw me be a big name in the business. But I always say that she was up there, and I'm sure she met a couple of agents up there, and she got me the job. I still believe that to this day.
It's lovely to watch. All of it, isn't it? We're just sat here watching the telly. It's lovely.
Well, we've also been joined now by Bruce's former writer and friend, Barry Cryer. Welcome, Barry. Thank you very much for popping in to see us. And you were just saying you and Bruce have been friends for 60 years.
Yeah, it was the Windmill. And we did 6 shows a day, 6 days a week. And I met this man, and he was brilliant 6 times a day. The rest of us were sweating because they hadn't come in to see you telling jokes. They'd come in to see our friends posing and the fan dancing and everything. And I got the impression of Bruce, the energy of that man was just amazing. Then we sat in the canteen one day and he said, I'm thinking of packing it in. I said, what are you talking about?
And when was this now?
Sorry?
So that was back in the Windmill?
This was right, 1957.
So he was in his 20s then?
Yes, well, he was pushing 30 by then.
Right, yeah.
And I said, what are you going to do? And I think he meant it as a joke. He said, I'm going to open a little tobacconist. And the following year, 1958, I hear that my friend is now the new compo of Sunday Night at the Palladium. I'm walking down Kingsway in London, and there he is. And we greeted each other. He'd been to a press conference. His first one was coming up that Sunday, live. In those days, millions of viewers. And I said, what happened to the tobacconist? Postponed. Postponed for a very long time after that. And then the years go on. I worked with him on the Generation Game, and I worked with him on TV specials.
And when you say work, then, how did you work with him? What was your relationship like?
Well, you gave Bruce ideas rather than tight script, because you know whatever tight script you gave him, he would be running off it brilliantly with whatever was happening.
Right.
He was a peopleaholic. He loved people.
What a good
So
phrase.
he loved something going wrong. That was what he was wanting to happen. Because I'll tell you a story about a woman on Gen Game, and this was about Bruce could be rude to somebody, but everybody laughed because they knew it wasn't real. It was affectionate. There's a small woman being very verbose on Generation Game, going on, and Bruce, of course, embraced her and looked over her head at the audience. And she went into a long story about being at Bellevue Zoo in Manchester yesterday, what? And she said at one point, she said, Bruce, I thought the lion was going to drag me into his cage. And he looked over her head at the camera and said, wish he had. Anybody else saying that, but everybody laughed, including her. That was the great gift the man had, sending them up, making fun of them, but in a warm way, involving them. He loved them getting laughs. That's what he loved.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest shame, something that many people have said, is actually there was only one Bruce, and actually there's nobody else that we can think of that is following in his footsteps. Nobody's quite, nearly, Anton, nearly, but nobody's quite got the full package. You know,
thank you very much. He could do the lot, though. And he could sing, dance, play the piano, do impressions and everything. And where he was very shrewd when he took over the Palladium, he didn't throw it all at the audience immediately. He let it creep in week by week. Oh, he's playing the piano. Oh, he's singing with that star.
Clever.
Oh, he's just done an impression of Sammy Davis, who's on the show.
Yeah.
The man could do the lot.
And actually, that's an interesting point.
pays
debts. You know, when you start thinking about that transition from the stage actually onto television and using the camera as an extra little member of the audience.
He had an instinct.
And how he managed to do that.
He had an instinct, Bruce, with a camera in front of him, although he'd been schooled in the live audience. It was still a live audience to him, however many cameras were about. But boy, he knew where that camera was. The look, suddenly over there to the camera. He could work the camera, but his obsession was people. He's wonderful with people. Whoever you met, walking down the street or a waitress or anybody, hello, he was the same with people. There was no sort of celebrity thing. Would you leave me alone? I'm walking down the street. You know what I mean? And people sense that, I think.
Well, Barry, you're going to stay with us for a little bit longer. It's
Thank you
obvious
very
you're not
much.
done talking yet.
Thank
so
you.
Stay with us. Thank you very much. And Bruce was married to former Miss World winner Will Nellier for 34 years.
But it was his love affair with the audience, as Barry said, that made him the undisputed king of light entertainment. And here's a look back at that very special relationship.
Good evening. Oh, fancy sitting there in a sports shirt. The first thing about audience participation is you've got to enjoy it.
Is this the husband? Well, you can't have everything. Good evening.
I've always loved it. I've loved it because you never know what's going to happen.
Stand up. Let's have a look at you. Come on. Go on, blimey, sit down.
I love getting out of a situation. If somebody says something, I like to come back at them, or if they do something, I love to pounce on it.
I love the hat, dear. Yes, like a blancmange gone wrong.
He never alienates anybody. He brings people with him, includes them in his joke, and then if he ends up being the butt of the joke, that's fine by him. He loves that too.
Your line's on the back of your fan. On the back of your fan. On the back of your fan.
The thing I love about Bruce is his complete ability to react to any strange member of the public.
Everybody's switched on now. I think we've got mad.
No matter what they say, no matter what they do, he's always there, ready to turn it into comedy gold.
But I can't see anything if I put them on now.
Oh, I see. You've got to... I mean, have we really got research people on this show? Fridge maid who's called Daphne and blind as a bat.
He's brilliant with people on stage. What they've said is funny. In fact, they're being funny because they're standing next to Bruce Forsyth.
What do you do, Agnes?
I'm a casual farm worker with Mark Hume means of Kermailey.
Could you play that back for me? I try to make the camera a person that I'm always laying off on. This is it. The camera will always understand my feelings. So if somebody is giving me trouble, I look at the camera and say, well, what do you think of that? What a stupid fool. What did we do to you, dear?
It wouldn't let me out. It wanted to get me in there.
Oh, really? There's nothing new about that. I mean, Lauren Hardy, in particular Oliver Hardy, was doing that years ago. You know, he'd always look at Stanley and he'd go, Oh, I love going on safari. I always send my luggage on ahead. Don't never talk through a laugh, dear. Never with me.
You have to understand with Bruce Forsyth that no matter what you do with him, whether you're dancing with him or trying to interview with him or being on a show as a contestant, you are second banana.
Shining light on, shining light on, shining light on me.
I'm the star, all right, mate. I'm the star of this show. I'm there for upstairs. Get out! I love to make contact with an audience. Because without them, I've got nothing. I've got nothing to offer.
We definitely hit on something here.
There's no feeling in the world like pleasing an audience and knowing they've liked you. You know you've left them and they're still enthusiastic.
And that's what he really loved about the One Show, didn't he? He loved that community viewing, and he loved the fact that everybody was sat there, of all ages.
Oh, he was in his element when he used to come here.
Yeah, he was. But of course, the Generation Game was the show that really allowed Bruce to interact with the public and create those moments of genius that we were just watching there. And we are now joined by the show's producer, Jim Moyer. Now, Jim, you first produced Bruce back in 1971. You were seeing 120 shows.
Yes, we did. And it was as if the show was meant for him.
Really?
It was a Dutch television show. In Dutch, it was 1 van de 8, 1 out of 8.
Oh, yeah.
8 contestants, which is what we had in the Generation Game, and of course, 1 wins. We did a pilot show. In 1971, things were less sophisticated. Nowadays, if you're launching a big special production, you would go through many, many pilots. We had 1 pilot, no outside rehearsal. He turned up on the day, having been briefed by me in many telephone calls and meetings, and we shot the pilot Friday afternoon and Saturday evening, and it was, to be candid, pretty much a blinding success. Sadly, the first show wasn't. So in the end, what we did is we jigged around with the pilot
and the pilot was transmitted as the first show, we became a bit over-ambitious, carried away by our first success. But he was an intuitive performer. If he trusted you, and happily he and I got on absolutely famously in all those 120 shows, I don't think we ever had a crossword. If he trusted you, he accepted the material and then made gold from it. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
One or two games always stand out in my mind as being classics. In particular, we'd all remember the Potter's Wheel. Actually suggested to me by my wife, Julia. We did the Potter's Wheel. Yes, my wife gave me that idea. Bruce, of course, readily accepted it, and he looked down at the mess that they had made, and he looked at one and he said, yes, bit puckered, love. Well puckered. But he was, as all have said here tonight, an absolute genius with people, caustic but kind.
And it looked on the Generation Game like it just happened. But obviously you're saying, you know, you had many conversations. But Rosemary, you know that nothing just happened. I mean, it was meticulously planned, as you've all said, you know, very much the professional all the time.
Bruce loved rehearsals. He loved the point when you could sit around and just sort of go into around a table and, you know, throw ideas around for like a play and things. We would rehearse the plays, but with stand-ins, just to see where the pitfalls were for them, because obviously, you know, there were pitfalls. And we'd rehearse the dance routines and we'd rehearse all the, you know, sort of all various games. But that's what he really, really loved. So from this very solid base, he could go anywhere because he'd got his solid base. And once he knew that was there, then anything could happen. And from my point of view, you know, I always felt safe in his hands because you knew whatever happened, he'd be there and it would be funny.
I mean, we've got a dance routine that you did. I mean, absolute meticulous choreography. I mean, this must have taken hours. Let's have a look.
Thank you.
Well, I do have my point shoes still, but they haven't been on my feet for a rather long time. But, you know, when I think it's thought about that was that tutu was from the Royal Ballet.
Was it?
I know, I was thrilled. I'm amazed I even got into it. There's no way I would now. But we did rehearse it a lot. We actually did a lot of rehearsals, because obviously when we did one demonstration for the contestants, we're never allowed to do another. And one demonstration, that was it. So we had to make sure it was absolutely right. Otherwise, there was no going back, and if we messed it up, then it wasn't really going to look very good, you know. But yeah, it was great. It was such fun. I mean, I think I gained so many more wrinkles over those 5 years because, and just for me as a performer, just, you know, Bruce used to involve me in everything. He was so kind.
Yeah. It was that feeling just of giving the audience such a great time. So as you were saying, just that meticulous planning, whatever it took, just to get the most out of that moment.
But Rosemary was also a star of the Ballspon Road Theatre Club, the great plays that we did, which was an early invention where the script was written on bits and pieces of the props. The first time we did it, I almost collapsed directing the show in the gallery. It was basic, fantastic humour. We absolutely loved doing them.
Well, tonight we've been asking you to send in pictures of yourselves with Brucey. Lovely idea for a call-out. And we've been inundated, actually.
Well, we have. Now, this is Bruce and Colin in Wentworth in 2009.
So you say 2009. 2009. Anyone? Now, the next picture, is it going to be higher or lower than 2009? You think higher? You think lower? We're going lower. We're going lower than 2009.
Oh, it's 2015. It's higher. Oh, yes, Sue met Sir Bruce in one of his last shows in Norwich. After the show, they were invited backstage, and Sir Bruce was, of course, an absolute gentleman.
Good game, that, though. Good game, good game. So much better than last week. Do keep them coming. It'll be nice to see them. To see them!
Nice! Oh. Now, when it comes to catchphrases, well, didn't he do well?
I want a catchphrase. I want to start a craze. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Didn't she do well? Yes. 20 points, mate.
I let catchphrases happen. Never force them.
I'm in charge. That was my first catchphrase in Beat the Clock. I had this couple that messed the game up completely. So I said, no, hold on. And I started to show them how to do it. And before I could finish showing them how to do it, they started the clock again. And I said, hold on, just a minute. It's my game. I'm in charge.
And the next day, a lot of people phoned me and they said, oh, it's a marvellous catchphrase. And I think the best ones just happen when you're working. Here they are, they're so appealing. OK, dollies, do your dealing. Good game, very good game.
You can get a bit fed up with it, especially when you're out somewhere. I went to the cup final, and if I heard good game once, I heard it 1,000 times. Good game, good game. Good game, good game. A shame.
All right, my love.
Keep dancing. They're marvellous, actually. They're things that have happened throughout the years.
It was so much better than last week.
And I don't know what I'd have done without them in many ways.
Nice to see you. To see you now. Didn't he do well?
It's just magic.
Well, his most recent catchphrase was, of course, keep dancing. And we're now joined by Dave Arch from Strictly. Dave, welcome along. Now, this will be the first time people have heard you speak.
No piano to hide behind.
This is it, Dave. This is a big one. But what was your relationship with Bruce like? Because he'd always give you a nod, wouldn't he, at the beginning of every show. But, you know, what was the man you knew like?
He was lovely. He completely respected musicians, and so he always had time for me, for the band, and the singers. He would always come and say hello, which goes a long way, actually.
He loved to feel the warmth, didn't he, of the live orchestra, and just that kind of wrapping around him almost.
Yeah, and we would do a warm-up every show, and he'd sing a song every time, which was, I mean, it was really good. Really,
and for the audience, that's brilliant, isn't it? When you see him on and do his little bit. I mean, it's such a bonus that.
Yeah. And actually, Anton, that's the thing, because he also did like a little stand-up routine as well.
He always did his own. Always did his own warm-up. He would always come out to the audience and say hello to everyone, and then do 10 minutes.
Yeah,
do a 10-minute stand-up, have a bit of fun, do a song, always get a lady from the audience and dance with a lady, and then it would be like the generation game.
Yeah.
It'd be going 300 people in the studio, and I had to pick you. It was all that.
It was nice for us, actually, that, wasn't it? Because you actually felt like it just calmed you down before the show started, and here he goes, he's going off his one.
He was very brilliant in putting people at ease, though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, I have to say, I'm sticking up for people when the judges, Craig, were sometimes a bit too harsh. But it wasn't always ladies that he danced with, because he did dance with you, didn't he, Anton? And it was his idea.
Well, we were playing golf, and after a couple of years of doing the show, playing golf, we're chatting away, and we both loved the Sinatra and the Sammy Davis Jr. thing, of course. Yeah. And they did a great thing called Me and My Shadow, which was a sort of legendary song. And we're chatting about it, saying how much we liked it. Anyway, didn't think anything more of it after playing. Next year, the series comes round, and in the car park, he goes, we're going to do that number. What number are you talking about? He said, Me and My Shadow. I've had a word. We're going to do that. Where? He said, on the show.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. So we rehearsed and routined Me and My Shadow, and then did it on the show. I got to be honest with you, this still is one of the highlights of my entire life. Other than the birth of my children, I think this is the highlight of my entire life. Obviously, I'm getting married.
Would you like to see it again? Would you like to see it again, Anton?
Come on.
Oh, come on.
Let's
spoil
hear it.
me. Spoil me. I've come all this way.
Here we go.
We'll climb the stairs. We'll never knock.
No, follow me, follow me.
Where you going? As a sort of a performer, dancer, singer, whatever it is, that is the highlight of to be able to do something like that with your absolute hero.
Yeah.
Do something that you'd watch great performers do, and then get to do it with the greatest performer we've ever produced, bar none. Is sort of unbelievable. It still now it makes me sort of well up a bit. I just love it. And he's the only partner I've danced with on Strictly Come Dancing who hasn't gone wrong. It's a beautiful moment.
Do you know, I don't know who wants to answer this question because it's an interesting one. We've seen him in so many facets throughout his whole career, as a dancer, as a game show host, as a comedian. Barry, I'm going to start with you. Where do you think he sits best?
Oh, he was show business on legs. I mean, he was everything. You can't categorise Bruce. You can't slot him into a category.
No.
He was pretty good at all of them.
Yeah.
He was on the other night with Miranda Hart and suddenly walks over to piano and plays Misty in an Errol Garner style, but I respect you. He could play, couldn't he?
Oh, really? And you know that he couldn't read music,
no,
anything.
Just
what he used
natural.
to do is get the record and he'd learn it kind of one finger, and he didn't know any other songs except the ones he could play. I mean, he loved jazz, and I mean, we were always listening to Errol Garner and all that sort of stuff.
I used to say to him, in fact,
I tried to learn it the way. Sorry, I tried to learn it the way he did it, and I couldn't do it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he was very shrewd when he did the Palladium, he could. He didn't throw all his talents at the audience immediately, but as the weeks went by, he thought, wait a minute, he's playing the piano. Wait a minute, he's singing with the style of the show. Wait a minute, he didn't throw it all at them. I once said to him, is that all you do, those 11 things?
And he was so self-deprecating at the same time. At the end of the show, Dave and his wonderful, wonderful orchestra with the Strictly Singers will be performing a special one-show musical tribute. But first, here's a reminder of Brucey's unique brand of Saturday Night Fever.
To twirl you, to twirl you.
I had the wrong idea about Strictly. I thought it was going to be a comedy show with these contestants trying to dance. They wouldn't be able to. People would be falling all over the place, and I'd be amongst them throughout the generation game.
Oh, wait, not so close.
But I didn't realise that there's nobody more competitive than a ballroom dancer. They're as competitive as any athlete, and they somehow got this into the celebrities. And then we had a different show, a wonderful, wonderful show. Kevin! Fancy scoring so early in the evening. Right, don't tell the others. You're my favourite. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tell me, Tom, tell me, have I still got it?
Yes, Bruce, but it looks a little worn out to me.
You're working with a legend, don't you understand that? You gotta get high before you taste the love. Gangnam Style. I do apologise, my behaviour was tote inappropriate. Dancing!
Oh, we've gone all Strictly. Look at us. We've gone all Strictly.
Hey, this set is lovely.
Don't give It Takes Two any ideas. Come on.
I was going to say. Now, Strictly Come Dancing kicks off its new series in just a few weeks, and Bruce always believed that the show must go on. And to keep that spirit alive, we wanted to play our part by honouring the one-show tradition of revealing the final 3 contestants.
The final 3.
Here we go.
The roundup is almost complete. So far, this lot have been announced. So we've got Brian Connolly, we've got Molly King, and
Ruth.
Simon Rimmer. There's a lot of people there, but there's still 3 blank faces. Shall we go with the first one?
Go on, then.
OK, the first celebrity joining them is... There's that music that makes you feel sick when you're one of the contestants. There we are.
She was once asked what first attracted her to her millionaire husband.
Well, she's been dissected, she's been locked up and made to disappear.
And she was part of the longest-running ever magic show in the West End.
We think she's going to be magic. It is, of course, the lovely Debbie McGee! Hiya, Debbie. Nice to see you. Congratulations.
What are you doing?
Don't start your house.
Hello, Debbie. Nice to see you. Come and sit down.
Thank you.
Oh, my word.
Well, this is exciting. And you just said when you came in, you've had your first day of rehearsal.
Yes, and I've trodden on Matt's toe.
Don't worry, you'll learn all the steps.
Well, I hope I don't do that one strictly.
Aww. You've got that out of the way now.
Yeah.
But was the first day fun?
Totally exciting. It was nerve-wracking, but we've all had a ball already. I mean, we're just like a unit already. Everybody got on. They couldn't shut us up. Then we met all the pros, and then they really couldn't shut us up. You know, somebody had to go and get a whistle so that they could shut us up to start the dancing. And we've already been dancing today. I can't tell you.
Well, once you start, you don't stop, let me tell you, Debbie. But, I mean, this isn't the first time that we've met before because, as you know, I did Strictly with your former husband, with Paul Daniels. So did his experience then inspire you to do this?
I'd always loved the programme and wanted to do it. So when Paul got it, I was really jealous.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I wanted to do it. Yeah. And I loved it when he did it. And so, so of course. And then when they rang and said whether I'd like to do it, you know, yes.
Yeah, it was 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, just getting back to your late husband, Paul, and I mean, Sir Bruce was a big inspiration of his as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Paul, whenever Paul was interviewed, he always said, you know, his inspiration was Bruce. And when he was giving masterclasses to young magicians, he would always say, don't watch a magician, watch someone in show business who's been there a long time. And then he would always name Bruce, you know. And I can remember, of course, when Paul was doing Strictly, and you were there, Matt, you wouldn't have known this, but because I was in the audience every week, half an hour before the recording, Bruce would come in and sort of kick the warm-up man off and entertain us for half an hour before the cameras were rolling. And as soon as he walked into that studio, and it has its own electricity.
Oh, yeah.
But when Bruce walked in, it lit up. He just filled it. So that's lovely memories of him.
Well, you've sat there and watched it, and now you're going to do it. So
I know.
I'm sure
Can't
it
believe
will
I'm still
fulfill everything. I know.
myself.
Well, it's out
Well,
there
good
now,
luck.
Debbie. They all know you're doing it, so you can talk to people about it now, for goodness sake, can't you?
So let's find out now then who else is going to be joining you. Here we go.
OK, well...
Oh,
He
nice.
is used to being first past the post.
His face has been on first-class stamps.
A post box in Donington was painted gold in his honour.
It's gold medal-winning Paralympian Johnny Peacock.
Hey, Johnny! Good to see you, buddy. Welcome, are you all right?
Hello, Johnny. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, have a seat.
Well, I mean, first question, with a name like Peacock, you must be really excited about the feathers.
Yeah, you don't go giving them ideas too early.
Come on.
How did today go for you, Johnny? Because we've just heard from Debbie, first kind of major day of rehearsal then, so...
Yeah, no, it was great fun. I got the chance to waltz with Debbie here, so
Yeah.
that was lovely.
Right.
I didn't step on her toes, though, so that was a bonus. So day one's gone OK.
OK, good.
And as the first Paralympian to take part in Strictly, I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, what are going to be the challenges for you then, specifically?
Yeah, so I think this is the first time that they've got a disabled person on the main show, so that's going to be really good, I think. You know, I think that hopefully we can change a bit of the stigma.
Well, it's about time, isn't it?
I know. We did a little, like, I think a dancer came to check out my movement patterns of the leg to kind of see what would perhaps be a restriction.
Yeah.
And I think she very quickly realised that it was me that was the restriction
Oh, really?
and not the leg. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that if you do see me not dance so well, I wouldn't blame it on the leg. Although I might try and use that as an excuse at some
You
point.
should have kept that quiet.
Are you going to be using your sprinting prosthetic then?
No, I don't know if I'll be able to use the sprinting leg because it's slightly different alignment, but I might have to get something made for a bit of the quicker dances like the jive. But I think for most of the standard
quick step,
dances,
I'd put it on.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, well, focus on the ones that are close enough first, and, all will be well. All will be well. Right, let's complete our lineup. This is the last face for Strictly 2017. Yeah.
So here we go.
Stand by.
Now then, she shed a tear with Beyonce.
She is the daughter of a soul-to-soul singer.
And she's already proved that she's got the X Factor.
Who is it now?
Oh, it's Alexandra Hello. How are you? you're so excited.
I'm so excited. I'm so nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, you know this. Oh, God.
What are you most nervous about? Because you're such an experienced performer.
But you know what it is? It's so different. I mean, I'm a singer. I'm not a dancer at all. And, you know, the dancing that I've done with my own songs and stuff like that is completely different to this.
Yeah.
This is such a challenge. And it's the one show I've wanted to be a part of for the longest time. So for me, it's a massive dream come true. Massively.
And the thing is, because you say there's nearly more pressure because people expect. I mean, me, no expectation. But you, lots of expectation.
Well, the joke is, like, my family have just found out just now because I kept it from them. So sorry, guys. But yeah, they've all said to me, including my mum, and they've all said, if you ever get Strictly one day, you know, we think you're going to be great. And I've gone, I don't know, like in them ballroom. You know, it's completely different. Like today, we were doing the waltz, and it felt fabulous, but it's so nerve-wracking.
Wasn't this on your radar, Johnny, Strictly?
Was this on my radar?
Yeah, I mean, in any way.
Is it too late to run away?
Did it come as a surprise, though, when they asked it, or did you say, you know, can I do it?
No, I think it was a fantastic offer. It did come through, and you know, it was too good an opportunity to turn down. And obviously, for me, I've never danced before. It's not something that I've ever really. I'm always like the last person on the dance floor. I'm either paralytic or stood by the bar on the night out. Yeah, never on the dance floor. So I just wanted to challenge myself. You know, I think this is something where. I think experiences like this, you really grow as a person as well.
Yes.
And, you know, this is
it'll be a journey.
That
famous it'll be a journey. And Alexander, for you, you've been in Sister Act in the West End. And Craig, didn't he? Craig Rebel-Horwood, he was the choreographer. So do you think he's going to be tougher on you then?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still touring the show right now as we speak. I'm on the show tomorrow, but he's going to be brutal. And he was like that just directing the show. He put me through my paces, I tell you that now. But, so with this, I think, as long as I've always said, as long as it's constructive criticism, I'm ready for it because that's how you learn. But he's going to be horrendous to me, I'm sure.
Well, let's have a look, shall we, at the full lineup?
Oh, go on,
because it's now complete. There we are. There you all are.
Yay.
Friends and enemies alike. No.
Well, we have a special message for you all from former head judge Len. Here it is.
Oi, you three, good luck. I'm sure you're going to get out there shaking and baking. The only sadness, you won't be getting a 10 from Len.
Oh, bless him.
We love Len.
There you are. Well, we do. We wish you all the very best.
Yeah, we do.
We know how it's going to
Good
go, so good luck from all of us. And good luck to whoever's going to lift that mirror ball. Won't be long.
Yeah, exactly. Now, many younger viewers will only know Bruce as the presenter of Strictly, but decades before he ruled the dance floor, he was very much king of the game show.
Life is the name of the game, and I want to play the game with you.
It was back in 1971 when BBC producers and Bruce Forsyth unleashed a new game show based on a Dutch TV format.
Nice to see you. To see you.
This was prescribed family viewing. Saturday night, the Generation Game.
And you have a deaf white cat called Butch.
He's quite deaf.
Must be trouble at night getting him in, isn't it?
Here, Kitty!
He took hold of it, grabbed it by the scruff of the neck, and knew that he could make it work.
Parrot goes like this. Starting from now.
He portrays the man who's running the show and everything, but he loves it when it starts falling apart.
The worse they were, the better Bruce became.
This is your big dying scene, so you let the ass bite you on the bosom. Which one?
On the conveyor belt tonight, a Christmas hamper, an hors d'oeuvre tray, a rotisserie, a cuddly dromedary.
It helped them, didn't he?
A digital clock, you were trying to say, yeah? Digital clock.
Bruce was giving the answers.
There were some nice goblets as well. Oh, yeah, goblets, yeah, the silver goblets.
Suddenly these shows were not just shows in their own right, they were Brucey's shows.
Bruce's Price is Right.
And just putting that name on suddenly gave it like the stamp of approval.
Everybody's got a favourite Bruce show, whether it's The Generation Game or The Price is Right. For me, it was Play Your Cards Right.
And the 3 is here, Jack. Lower than the
Jack, you say a 7.
All the stuff since Gen Game they've all been sort of, you know, different games, but it's kind of been the same Brucey in the middle that everybody loves.
You want to bet on it? Yeah! Well, you better get on it. Yeah! So don't fret. Get set. Are you ready?
Bruce worked his game show magic on a whole new audience in 2010.
Have I got news for you? For you, have I got...
I'll be honest, I wasn't entirely sure it was a good idea to have Bruce Forsyth hosting the show. He wasn't an obvious choice for a topical news quiz.
He didn't just come and do the show, he took over.
It's definitely time for... play your Iraqi cards right.
I have to say, by the end of it, he had sort of stormed it, really.
Tony Blair insists that weapons of mass destruction will eventually be found in Iraq. Well, it would be nice to see them, When I look back, I do realise I did too many game shows. But you see, you could do them so quick and the money was fantastic.
What he does looks easy. What he does looks fun. What he does looks as if it's just happening off the spur of the moment. But what he's doing has been meticulously planned, because make no mistake about it, this man is a real pro.
What a programme this has been.
It's been lovely.
It really has. And thank you to all of our guests tonight for joining us. Huge round of applause for everybody here, for sharing all of your memories and your special times with us. And we've had a message from Bruce's family here, so I will read it out. It's from Lady Forsyth and Bruce's children, Debbie, Julie, Laura, Charlotte, Louisa and JJ. And they would like to thank the many, many people who have sent messages of condolence. Our hearts are truly broken, and the tributes paid to him in the last few days have helped us tremendously through this very difficult time. It's been humbling and comforting to us to realise just how much Bruce was loved and how many lives he touched. There we are.
Well, we will leave you now with some more of the photos you've been sending in throughout the show, and Dave Archer's special arrangement of the Generation Game theme tune, which Bruce himself wrote. So good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Life is the name of the game, and I wanna play the game with you. Life can be terribly tame if you don't play the game with two. Life is a go as you please, and I'm oh so pleased to go with you. Life can be oh such a tease if you don't play the game with two. Remember life's for living. Live every minute of every hour of every day. To do some giving. Well, don't you dare give way when it's time to play. I tell you, life is a human race, and I wanna race the tracks with you. Life is a bet for a place if you don't play the game with two. And I wanna play the game with you, 'cause the name of the game is life. And you may find a victim all the blame, 'cause the name of the game is life.
Didn't he do well?